You saw us at Poof in the intro to Season 7. When he was more useless than we thought, you saw us at an even more uninspired version of him in Anti-Poof in Season 8. With even fewer ideas to go through, Season 9 introduced Sparky, Cosmo's long-lost twin brother. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we're opening Season 12 with Cletus, the rapping shark. This is the Fairly Odd Parents saying, "End us! Fucking end us already! We're tapped for ideas! We need to keep pulling more and more characters out of our ass just to keep the show afloat! Just please, put us out of our misery!" When has adding a dog to an established cast ever been a good idea? No, seriously. It seems like just one of those things that are doomed to fail. You know, like the troublemaking new pets, the cousin that's useless at everything. And that's not even to mention that this useless dog has an uncanny resemblance to this useless dog. To be fair though, Scrappy Doo's voice is at least tolerable.
I like it. I like you. I like everything. I like this chew toy.
Yes, I hate Sparky more than I hate Scrappy. Before I even begin, I'm just going to put all my cards on the table and say that I hate everything about this character. And I'm being generous in calling him a character, since he's pretty much a more destructive Cosmo. But I hate his appearance, I hate his energy, and most of all, I hate his stupid voice. It sounds like someone's taking a cheese grater to my ears. What's more, is that Sparky here shows that adding these characters is useless. I don't hate Poof. In fact, Bad Air Day might be one of my favorite episodes, all because of Poof. But because he had such a shallow personality, you know, being a baby and all, it couldn't last. And would you believe that Sparky has even less of a personality? Despite my feelings about Poof, it's still awkward to see him photoshopped into the intro though. We start the episode in the park, and Timmy sees that everyone has a pet but him. Wow, literally the first scene, and it's already painfully blatant that they're out of ideas. If you don't know, Fairly Odd Baby started out with Cosmo and Wanda seeing everyone else had a baby and getting distracted by the idea. Sound familiar? Also, they make a reference to E.T., and the next sentence explains why that was a stupid idea. When Timmy wants to know why he can't have a pet, we get a past montage of him killing his pets. What the fuck? Actually, it starts with Timmy feeding his pet chicken scrambled eggs. As you could see, they're clearly trying to show that Timmy is a horrible pet owner, and trying to be funny about it. But there's nothing funny about making a chicken a cannibal, presenting an animal with its predator, and taking a snail to a salt factory. Excuse me for a moment, I need to make a phone call. Yes, Nickelodeon Studios. I've seen this terrible joke in both SpongeBob and now in The Fairly Odd Parents, where a careless pet owner thinks that salt is a good idea for a snail, and the writers think that putting them in mortal danger or killing them is funny. Do you have any insight on this?
Oh, what do you care about? All they do is crawl around, spread slime everywhere, bring home finger paint art, shouting, "Daddy, Daddy, why don't you play with me?" Well, maybe Daddy wants to be alone and bathe in his money bath! Now why don't you go play with your wooden bat? But Daddy, it's all broken and then don't get a splinter. Sorry, I was just caught up in my thoughts. What did you want?
Why do you think it's funny killing snails with salt? But now I can see that you have other problems, so I'm just gonna leave you.
Whatever, asshole.
Okay, back to business. This thing here ends up more disturbing than funny, and Cosmo claiming that he wants more scrambled eggs during the thing doesn't make it better.
Face it, sport, you're just not responsible enough to have a pet.
Right, because they all tend to run away when Timmy goes to summer camp. Amp. Oh, they never got that fixed. Yeah, remember that episode where the writers were smart enough to know that it would make Timmy horribly unlikable if he killed his own pets? Good times. Timmy asks his parents, but they end up saying no because of course they do.
I can't believe my parents don't think I'm trustworthy enough to have a dog.
What's your plan?
Well, my mom is allergic to cats. If you poof up a bunch of them, my dad let me get a dog to chase them away.
Just wish for a fucking dog. Wish for your parents to let you get a dog, or torment your mother. Good kid you got there, Mr. and Mrs. Turner. Kills all of his pets and sets off your allergies to get a new one. I'm sure you're doing a great job. Oh, what's that? We're in the 95% of your life where you think that you don't have a kid? Sorry, I forgot. But speaking of stealing jokes from SpongeBob episodes, Timmy's dad ends up thinking that the blueberry is a monster. Anyway, he tells Timmy to go and get a dog. He also dives into a barrel of pushpins because... oh good god, why is there a pushpin in his teeth? There is no way that wouldn't look painful. So they go off to get a dog in a fairy pet store. Why a normal dog is out of the question, I don't know. Oh yeah, because there's so little story potential in having a dog with next to no personality, that adding something like that would be totally pointless. I'm not getting at something here, I swear. Oh, and they hand-wave this by saying that Timmy has been banned from all the regular pet stores. On the entire planet. You know, the formula usually goes, whatever Timmy wishes for seems like a good idea at first, but when there are consequences we didn't see, it goes very bad very quickly. We know that this idea is bad from the get-go. Oh, and Jorgen is at the Fairy World Pet Store filling in for his niece.
I'm filling in for my niece, Ginny Von Strangle. She had a regional soccer championship. I should probably be there, but there's no way I'm passing up $8 an hour.
Aren't you like the leader of fairies or something? Doesn't that pay well enough? Wait, since when did fairies need money? They find some barking underneath the tarp, and when they remove it, we see our first glimpse of Sparky, dining like an angel. Jorgen starts off by insulting Timmy's intelligence and saying that the dog is better, then says that the dog has been brought back more times than Cosmo, implying that the dog is worse than Timmy. Also, Sparky, a fairy dog, shows off many of his previous owners, mostly adults, who aren't supposed to know that fairies exist. And no, as far as I can tell, none of these owners have kids. It's stated that he was brought frequently back to the fairy pet store. I'm just going to say right now that this plot is riddled with so many holes, it'd make a good imitation for Swiss cheese. Not to mention that even Cosmo should know that this is a stupid idea by now.
But I've got to clean up some magic turtle poop. Just to clarify, the turtle is not magic, the poop is.
Ah yes, Nickelodeon standard number 1. Every episode aired must have toilet humor, no matter the show, no matter if it fits. Nickelodeon, putting toilet humor first. Also, Timmy has to put on magic flea powder every 4 hours or something. Once again, the usual formula is that the wishes go out of hand in unpredictable ways. It doesn't work out if someone knows of the consequences and doesn't tell Timmy about them. Also, Sparky starts chewing on Poof. If you're going to keep establishing new characters like this, I expect them to interact on a better level than this, in the first episode that you introduce them in. Speaking of which, I love it how Poof has barely anything to do in this episode. And before you say anything about how this isn't Poof's episode, keep in mind that he's a main character now. Even in episodes that don't have much to do with Cosmo, he still has a purpose to be there, and usually does something with his screen time. We don't get that with Poof far too often to justify his existence. But this episode isn't about that useless character, it's about this useless character. Sparky jumps over some school buses. You know, if they wanted to be witty or something, he could have just jumped over a tank of sharks instead. We see that Timmy's dad is disguising himself as a lamp, because somewhere it's written that all fathers in animated series, sitcoms, or commercials have to be an idiot. No, really. This message has been brought to you by the Bureau for Better Character Types. Everything that has been done with the idiot father has been done on The Simpsons alone. Everything you do with this character can be nothing but cliche, so please stop it, or your jokes are doomed from the get-go. Sparky gets rid of the cats and Timmy's mother, who hasn't done anything wrong in this episode, which surprises me. Hell, she's not even neglectful. More shenanigans. The dog chews Poof into a fluffy pulp, and Vicky shows up. Dog defends Timmy, and the chainsaw makes a square hole.
You're a great dog, Sparky. Why would anyone ever bring you back to the pet store?
Once again, everyone in those photos was an adult who isn't supposed to know that fairies exist. You came up with these dumbass rules, and I expect you to follow them to the letter. This is probably the biggest sign that a show has gone on too long, by not following the rules that they themselves establish. The next morning, the house is buried because Sparky buried it. Timmy wishes the house was back on the surface. I want you to remember this because this is another example of one tiny joke completely destroying a plot. Anyway, Sparky destroyed the house because dogs chew. He also filled in the crossword puzzle because Sparky is an asshole. Basically, the rest of the episode is going to show that Sparky is an asshole. Let's go back to earlier when Sparky was all sunshine and rainbows. During that time, you're supposed to foreshadow his behavior with his behavior. When other people do it, it makes it seem like being nice is all an act. From this point forward, I can only really see Sparky as an asshole, especially with his happy-go-lucky attitude as we find out about his mayhem. Sparky doesn't give a shit about anything he's done. I know Sparky is a dog, but he went through something called personification. You see, since Sparky can talk, in most people's mind, he's just as much of a character as Cosmo or Wanda. Hell, he's probably smarter than Cosmo, so I can only see him as knowing. If Sparky couldn't talk and was more consistently a dog, and only able to do what a dog could do, then you'd have leeway to do this stuff and keep Sparky likable.
Guys, Sparky destroyed the city. I need you to poof it back to normal.
We can't! Sparky buried our wands!
Excuse me for a moment. What did you guys use to poof the house back to the surface after Sparky was done with the digging? What's that? Your wands? For the sake of not annoying my audience, I'm going to be silent on this matter. But every time that you see them in need of their wands for the rest of the episode, I want you to shout in your heads, in my voice if you prefer, use the fucking wands used to bring the fucking house back to the fucking surface! Because it is the driving force for the rest of the plot. It's called proofreading. Don't give us your first draft and expect a passing grade. We edit our stories to iron out oversights like this. It's a simple thing to fix. And before you even say that Sparky might have done it after the house was lifted, he was with Timmy from then until now. And if that wasn't enough, he even admits what he did last night. Also, now Sparky has magical fleas because Timmy was supposed to pour flea powder on him every 4 hours. Yes, because Timmy wanted a dog, he was really expected to never have a full night's sleep ever again. Also, then we see more evidence that Sparky is just a carbon copy of Cosmo. Oh, and if the fleas bite anyone, they become werewolves. When Timmy asks Sparky to find the wands, we get a bunch of stupid jokes. Also, within like an hour, dog hair has filled the city's drains. I don't know why they're piling on more consequences. I guess they don't think that people turning into werewolves and an evil dog demon is enough to constitute a good conflict. We find that the magic flea powder turns people normal. Then they reuse a gag and destroy any excuse that the hole could have been a square earlier. The signs keep piling up that they were just desperate to can this fucking turd, and I don't blame them. Anyway, Timmy's dad has a crop duster.
It worked! On the downside, I just realized I don't know how to fly a plane!
You know, it's pretty bad when you explain why your joke doesn't work, but when you describe why a crucial part of your plot doesn't work, right after that part of the plot, it's a special kind of insulting. Speaking of insulting, Sparky steals the only parachute. I want you to keep in mind that fairy dogs cannot die. Yep, someone who doesn't need a parachute took one, so someone who does need one couldn't use it. Luckily, Timmy lands in a pool. Now, after Sparky almost got Timmy killed, Timmy decides to get rid of him. Sparky goes away, and I have the strangest inkling that the writers don't want us to cheer here. It might just be the music, but who really knows? Sparky leaves a message trying to trying to apologize to Timmy.
I shouldn't have been so hard on Sparky. He was just being a dog.
Hang on, I want to try someone.
Don't worry, Timmy. I found a parachute.
Good boy!
I'll give it to you after I test it.
For breaking news, dog hair from Mr. Boomer's doggy groomers has now completely clogged the city's storm drains. Pipes everywhere are backing up. The Dimsdale Dam is about to burst.
But yeah, the dam is about to burst, and Timmy wished the dam was in his backyard because plot fart. We see that Timmy is outside, and the dam bursts. Timmy rushes in to save him, and brings him to a hilltop island.
Of course I'm alive. Fairy dogs can't die.
Oh, so that's twice now you nearly killed someone you apparently love. Tell me again, what am I supposed to like about this hellhound? Maybe the fact that it'll kill off Timmy Turner by the end of the season. No Timmy Turner, no Fairly Odd Parent.
I'm sorry I gave up on you, Sparky.
After he left you to die in a crashing plane. Seriously, what good thing did this dog do except solve a problem that Timmy made specifically to get a dog? The wands come by because plot fart.
I wish everything was back to normal.
And bye-bye, Sparky! But that's not how it ends. Yes, it is! The episode's over. Goodbye! Sparky was wished away because no one likes him. Timmy wished him away in his dying breaths after Sparky left Timmy to die in a plane crash despite not needing a parachute. I'm done here.